Morning everyone. Today I'm going to present to you a short presentation on Fibre to the Home. We're going to try and talk about the difference between Fibre to the Home and Fibre to the Cabinet. A lot of people get these things mixed up. People think they're getting Fibre to the Home, which is Fibre direct to the home, but what they're actually getting is Fibre to the Cabinet, and then a short, or it could be long, fibre link, copper link from that cabinet to your house, which is your old telephone line. So let's get going with the first slide. Okay, FTTH. What does this stand for? Well, it's an acronym. I hate acronyms, but it stands for Fibre to the Home. Okay, so Fibre to the Home, it's basically a fibre optic cable all the way from the exchange right to your home. It might go through a few distribution points on the way, but basically it's a fibre optic cable that starts at the exchange and goes all the way into your home, and it's presented in your home as a fibre optic outlet. Okay, now Fibre to the Cabinet, or Fibre to the Curb, some people might call it Fibre to the Curb, FTTC. This is a fibre optic cable going from the exchange to a street cabinet. You'll see them at the side of the road. They're big green ones, they're ventilated. They're normally next to another green cabinet. The existing green cabinet, which is a smaller, older one, that's what all the normal copper cables come from the exchange to this cabinet, and that is how it would normally go from there to your house, distributed out from there. Now what people have done is they've put this new cabinet at the side, and they've run a fibre optic cable from there back to the exchange. So in effect, what they're doing is moving the exchange closer to your house. So throughout the towns and cities, rather than being one exchange and distributing out from there, you'll have many little boxes set about, and that brings the speed directly from the exchange to that cabinet, and then it's hopefully a short run in copper from that cabinet to your home. The problem there is you've still got this bottleneck of copper. A lot of people think they're signing up for instance, BT Infinity, fibre, super fibre. You're only getting fibre to the cabinet. You're not getting a fibre connection in your house. So broadband speeds. What kind of speed can you expect to get, and who can you get it from? Now, BT did offer fibre on demand. This was a fibre optic service which they would bring it to your house. You could request fibre to your house or fibre to your premise, and they would give you a price to install a fibre from the street cabinet all the way to your house. Initially, they said it would be a one-off fee of £500, and then it would be about £2 per metre, depending on how they had to install the cable. So it could be a soft dig or a hard dig. It could be new ducting laid, it could be a micro ducting, but they said it would be about £2 a metre. This was back in 2013. They started rolling this out and found that the cost couldn't cover it. So they upped the price to £750, and I think it was about £5 a metre. In 2015, they suspended this. They got a massive backlog. They're not getting through as many as they thought. The costs are spiralling out of control. So they've suspended it, and now they're delivering what they call GFAST, or GEA, FTTP. It's not easy to understand because in their literature they're still saying it's fibre to the home or fibre to the premise. But my understanding is that it's fibre to the cabinet again, and then still a copper link out to the home, but it's using this new GFAST technology, which is just a different way of modulating the signal from the cabinet down the copper. So it's just a different way of transmitting the broadband. Now you're still limited in length. If you're over 250 metres, you're not going to get their 300 megabits per second that they say. You know, they're saying up to 330 megabits per second. If you live 500 metres away from a fibre cabinet, you're not going to get GFAST. You're better off within 100 metres. This will go down the further away you get. I don't think they offer anything over 250 metres away from a fibre cabinet. So that takes the place of their fibre on demand. They also offer fibre to the cabinet, which you'll heard of, BT Infinity and all this. This starts at 80 meg. So they'll offer you 80 meg, but again, it depends how far you are away from the cabinet. So in my instance, I'm 1,600 metres away from the cabinet, so I get 7 meg. I could get 6 meg on normal ADSL, so there's not much point, but I've got it. And it's a little bit better. It is a little bit more stable than copper all the way. City Fibre. You might have heard of City Fibre. City Fibre, they're rolling out, they've got 6 cities up and down the country, and they're rolling out fibre to the premise and fibre to the home. And they're delivering anything up to a gigabit. So depending on where you are in their region, they will deliver up to a gigabit. It's more likely to be about 300 meg, but you know, depending on where you are, within their network, they're delivering up to a gigabit. And that's rolling out all over the country. There's 6 major cities, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Bournemouth, Huddersfield, I can't remember the rest, but they're all over the country. Now, one that's a little bit more interesting is Barn. It's got a 4 in there because it stands for Broadband 4 Rural North. So what they've done is they've set up their own broadband company for the rural north. They're in the Lake District area, and they're installing their own broadband. So they're enlisting farmers and landowners, and they're literally digging up their own fields and laying their own fibre and putting their own networks in place. And they've been very, very successful with it. They're spreading all the time. So they're offering, again, up to a gigabit. So it's been a very successful project. GigaClear, again, that's another company that are doing very much similar to City Fibre, and they also offer up to 100 megabits per second. Now, I'm sure there's many more companies in the UK that are doing this kind of thing. So it is happening out there. It's not just BT. There are other companies. You know, Virgin Media do a similar thing to BT with their hybrid coax, which is exactly the same. It's fibre to the cabinet, and then it's a coax cable out to the house. It's a little bit faster than your twisted pair telephone cable. They're offering up to 150 meg. Again, it's distance reliant. You know, the further away you are, the less speed you're going to get. So again, it's this bottleneck of having a copper cable in there. So for these people that want to install their own fibre, can you do that? Is it possible? Well, unfortunately, there's only the likes of BT, Virgin Media, who can connect to their own network. So, you know, everyone out here today can get hold of some fibre. Can I run it to the nearest cabinet and have fibre to my home if I do connection? Well, no, you can't. If you can get your cable into the cabinet, well, next to the cabinet, you could approach BT to do that final connection. It will cost you thousands. You could also ask one of their trusted contractors. They have trusted contractors like Quinn and OpenReach and other people out there, CAS, and they could approach BT on your behalf. It may be a little bit cheaper because they'll have preferential rates, and they would be able to access that street cabinet. But you can't go in there yourself. It can't be another cable company. They just won't let you go in there. If anyone goes in and takes down an essential service, it's going to cost money. So there's no way can you do any of that. Let's talk about dark fibre. Some people think dark fibre is something strange, mystical. It's not. It's a normal fibre. Dark fibre is just a regular fibre that's not being used. So it's dark, it's not lit, there's no light in it. Can we use that? If there's dark fibres all over the UK, so say you want to set up a fibre optic network to that town, can you use a dark fibre? There might be one running up the M6, there might be one running down the A4. Can you utilise that? Once you've found out who owns it, that might be a problem on its own. But if there is a spare fibre in there, can I use that to get my broadband up and running? Well, yes, you can. but it's subject to what's called an IRU. The IRU is an indefeasible right of use, which means that you can use this for anything legal. So you can use this fibre for anything as long as it's legal for you to do so. Now the IRU also states that once you've purchased or leased this fibre, you are still liable to any maintenance on it. So if it gets damaged in any way, you will be liable. You've also got to realise that you're not buying a cable. You're buying a single fibre or a pair of fibres within a bundle of fibres. Now, I'm not sure about this, but I've read somewhere that after 25 years of lease, this fibre becomes yours. But again, you're owning a single fibre within a cable. So if the owner of the cable wants to pull out this fibre, they can. You own a single core within there and it can come out. So, you know, it's subject to this IRU, which basically means that you can use it, but you've got to abide by the terms and conditions. If it gets damaged, you're liable to it, and you also must keep the maintenance up on it. So it'll cost you money. They cost thousands to lease or buy a dark fibre, but there's nothing out of the ordinary about a dark fibre. It's just a normal, everyday fibre. Now, why do some areas have better coverage on fibre to the home and fibre to the cabinet? Well, it's fairly simple. It's down to the exchange. If the exchange has been updated to allow for fibre, then you have fibre in your area. If you've got Virgin Media, BT with fibre in your area, then you can have it. It's pretty simple. If you live in rural Britain and there's a project nearby like Barn, then you can have it. There's nothing more than that. You know, it's simple. That's why some areas have got the coverage, some haven't. BT say they're rolling out thousands per week of fibre. Who knows? You know, let's hope they are. So fibre versus copper, do we really need it? The straight answer is yes. For Britain to achieve this digital Britain, we've got to have higher broadband speeds. They say that the average broadband speed in Britain is about 12 meg. I tend to disagree on that. I think it's closer to 5. So, I mean, broadband speeds on the copper network, as I've already said, this technology of copper networks is 140 years old. The copper cables that are in there, they're degrading day by day. So your internet speeds are going to suffer. Again, it's distance related. The only way to get over distance related problems on copper cables is to install more fibre. So as a rough guide to give you distance related problems, if you live within 100 metres of a fibre cabinet, you might expect to get 80 megabits per second. If you live 500 metres away from a cabinet, that's going to drop down to 38 megabits per second. So it's going to, you know, half. And then 1,000 metres away, it's going to half again to 24 meg. And then 1,500 metres away, you're going to drop down to 15. These are the figures I brought up off the internet. They're not strictly true, because I'm 1,600 metres away where I live, and I get 7 meg. So these aren't exactly true. They are probably true if you've got a brand new cable from the fibre cabinet to your house. I've got 1,600 metres. There are 17 poles, so there's probably 20 joints. Every time there's a joint, and every time there's some water damaged cable, the attenuation is going to be there, the signal is going to drop, the broadband speeds are going to drop. Again, in my area, when we have heavy rain, my broadband speed halves. So there's water getting in there somewhere. So, you know, on fibre networks, this isn't going to happen. You know, you can do a watertight joint on a fibre optic cable. I have no problems whatsoever. The other problems with copper cables, coming from the cabinets to your house, you can get EMI, electromagnetic interference. If you're nearby any power stations or if you're near any transformers, you'll get EMI. That will affect your broadband. You won't hear it on the phone line, but the broadband will suffer from EMI. You won't get that on fibre networks. So what are the cost implications of installing more fibre? Well, as we know, The UK is flooded with copper cabling. All the old GPO cabling is still in there from the old telecoms, British Telecom, GPO before that. All that cable is still in there and it's still being used. So all the ducts are full. So that's why it's expensive now to try and install more cables. They have to pull one out to pull one in. The ducts are full. So to install a new duct, they've got to dig the road up, they've got to get permission from the council, they've got to have roadworks, they've got to have excavation. So it's a very, very costly way of doing things. So can we look at other methods of getting fibre that last mile to your home? Now in Europe, they're starting to do microducting in water pipes, in sewage pipes, in gas pipes, freshwater pipes, and it's been quite successful. Every house has got at least one of these, if not 2 or 3 of them. So these methods, they'll take a water pipe, for instance, they'll drill a hole in it, they'll seal it and install a microduct all the way into your premise. Back out, it's all sealed, and then they'll blow a fibre through it. Now this might go to a central DP that's near the exchange, and then it's distributed from there out to the exchange, and it takes fibre straight from the exchange or a DP nearby straight to your house. No digging, no excavation. The pipe is already there, laid underground, ready for you to use. It's been quite successful within Germany in particular. And I've seen some of these projects, and the methods they use are quite ingenious. How they get the cable through and back out, you know, the microduct, it's brilliant. Now, I've also seen overhead cables used. They can wrap the fibre around power cables and telecom cables. In my view, it's not such a good idea because it's easier to damage that. You know, in winds, in snow and ice, these cables can come down like any telephone cable, and then instead of it affecting 20 houses, because it might be a 10, 20 pair cable, it's going to affect thousands of houses or premises because it's a fibre optic cable, because it's carrying more signals down it. So overhead, in my view, is not such a good idea. I think we should be looking at these other ideas of using microduct and using existing conduits that are there. So why is broadband so important to the UK? And in particular, the higher speeds. We've all got mobile devices. We've all got laptops. A lot of people now will have smart TVs. As soon as you walk in your house, your phone, your laptop is connecting to your broadband. It's updating, it's downloading, it's backing up. You sit down, you turn the TV on. The TV is doing the same. It's straight onto the internet, it's checking for uploads and downloads, then you'll want to watch a film. It's all dependent on that broadband speed. To stream a movie, you need at least 3 meg. Now, if you're streaming a movie downstairs, someone else is streaming a movie upstairs, someone else is backing up the phone, a phone call, voice over IP, Skyping, you're not going to get it. Every day, new technology is being built around broadband speeds. Everyone's saying, yeah, we've got broadbands up to 100 meg, they're building phones that connect faster. Technology is moving at a rapid pace. We just have to have faster broadband. Without fibre, we're not going to do it. The copper networks out there, as I said, they're 140 years old. We cannot keep relying on these copper networks. They're out of date, simply out of date. Technology has moved on, and the infrastructure in Great Britain has got to move on. We've got to move with the times. So where does the UK stand on fibre to the home compared to other countries? Well, I had a look on the internet of the top 20 countries delivering fibre to the home. Now there's a difference between fibre to the home and fibre to the premise. Fibre to the premise is your offices, but I'm looking at fibre to the home. And the UK isn't even in the top 20 list. I think that's very disappointing. I think we should be at least in the top 10. But your biggest players out there are South Korea, and Japan. You might expect that, you know, technology places. And then in the top 10, you've also got USA, Italy, Canada, Sweden, Finland, places like that. I think the UK should be in there. I don't care if we're 10th, but we should be in the top 10. Now, most other countries out there, it says companies on my slide, but it should say countries. Most of the countries out there have got their government's backing and they're subsidised. We haven't as yet. David Cameron has committed to delivering fast broadband to all businesses and homes by 2020. By fast broadband, he's talking about up to 10 meg, at least 10 meg. I don't think 10 meg's enough. I think he should be saying 40 meg. So, you know, let's watch this space. I don't know what the governments are going to do about it, but they have got to act pretty soon because we are seriously being left behind in the digital world. The future's bright. The future's fibre. Thank you very much.